Welcome to the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District School Board meeting for Monday, March 23rd. I'm going to go through the agenda really quick, and then we're going to have Pat do a roll call. So this evening, we do have a shortened meeting because we have a board training afterwards, and because we do need to certify our, the budget validation from town meeting day a couple of weeks ago. So we have community comment, then we would certify the vote, approve our minutes from March 9th, and then adjourn. I'd like to ask any of the board members if they have any amendments or additions to our agenda for this evening. Kevin.
Thank you. Could we add a agenda item to discuss lease decisions at the Underhill ID building?
We can. We're going to add that after approving the March 9th minutes. Thank you. Is there any objection to that, members? Okay. Thanks, everybody. What's up, Steve?
Would it be good to have John go over the letter he sent out as well today, the excess spending threshold?
Oh, for S220.
Private overview. I mean, I read it, but I quickly read it. Came out.
Yeah, Steve, we'll add that. I have a feeling that the Underhill ID building might be a longer conversation. Maybe. We'll add S220 after.
Yeah.
That work? Okay.
Especially.
Yes. Well, they have community comment, which will be first. Thank you. Pat, want to take us away with roll call?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tara Arneson,
Present.
Kevin Campbell,
Here.
Heather Chadwick, Alison Conant, Stephen Diglio,
Here.
Edie Grenning,
Here.
James Granzow, Susan Lilich, Sandra Limoges,
Here.
Cal Magida,
Here.
Ethan Maurer,
Here.
Katie Nelson,
Here.
Lisa Pollock,
Present.
Helen Stoddard,
Here.
and do I include Lauren Montgomery Reinhardt?
Not quite yet.
Not yet. Okay, thanks. And then
Not
student reps, Eli Wimet. No, and Jack Connell. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Pat. Heather just walked in. So I noticed we have a lot of our community here in person and online. And this is the portion of our meeting where we are open to community comments. I ask that you raise your hand. We'll go with the group that is here in the room or online. But I promise you folks online, we will get to you. I ask that you would raise your hand. Community comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per person. The board requests that participants clearly state their name, place of residence, and topic of comment. The school board will take no action on the items raised during community comments, and dialogue exchanges will be for clarification. Unless immediate attention is required, action by the school board will occur during a subsequent meeting.
Can I clarify, due to the agenda items being added about the lease, should we still talk during community or wait until the lease agenda item?
Thank you for asking. So we only accept community comment at the very beginning of our meeting, which is why you see it on the agenda where it is. When we add things to our agenda, everything after is for the board discussion only. So you're welcome to make your comments. We'll take that into account when we're having a conversation, but please keep in mind no decisions are being made tonight.
Then I would like to make my community comment.
Your name and place of residence. You're welcome to come up to the table too if you'd feel more comfortable. The microphones are like all around.
Okay. My name is Elena Bourne, and I am the director at First Roots Underhill, which is located at the Underhill ID building at 10 River Road. We were led to believe by the school district that our lease would be renewed, and we had planned accordingly. We were shocked when we were notified last week that our lease would not be renewed and that we would need to leave the space by the end of June. After advocating that this was not enough time, the superintendent was flexible and agreed to allow us to stay until the end of July. Now, as a professional in early childhood education, I completely understand the need to expand preschool spots. There is a lack of high quality programs in our area. We currently have 67 families on our wait list, which is evidence of how high the demand is for infant and toddler care in our area. I know this decision was made in an effort to provide for your district families, so I'm here to introduce you to your district families. The infants and toddlers at our program today are your preschoolers, your kindergartners, your high school graduates of the future, and this decision should be made with consideration of your youngest community members and cannot harm other families in order to do so. With this short deadline, the majority of our families may not be able to find alternative care this late in the year. Families are often waiting over a year to find spots. Many of our families also rely on CCFAP subsidy to pay for childcare and cannot afford to pay for a private nanny if they can't find a spot this late in the year. Many of our families are working in your own school district, in the military, in healthcare, and other essential careers, and they are now facing the very real reality that they may be forced to leave their jobs. We understand your decision to expand preschool. However, we are disappointed with how the decision was handled, the lack of communication, and the lack of transparency to our program and to the families in this district. Again, we cannot provide for preschool families while harming the infant and toddler families. From an administrator's point of view, I know that you have probably begun enrolling for the fall, but I do want to point out that we had also begun enrolling. We had enrolled last fall for families to start in June that I have now had to tell they may not have care. We are committed to continue serving the families in this district. We have already begun actively searching for another location to move our program to, because it would be a disservice to the community to close the only infant and toddler program in Jericho. We are asking the school board to reconsider the decision made by the superintendent and to extend our lease by 1 year so that we have time to plan and intentionally create a new space and ensure that no harm and no disruption come to the children and the families currently in our care. Thank you.
Thanks, Elena. Please.
I won't be able to follow that up quite so articulately. Hi all, my name is Jerry Ciatti. I live in Underhill, Vermont. I want to comment on the superintendent's decision to terminate the lease for First Roots infant and toddler program. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to speak. My wife and I are new parents, and we're told that the days are long and the years are short. Right now, it kind of feels like everything moves very fast. Our daughter is 16 months old. First Roots has been a stabilizing force in our weekday lives since our daughter started there at 6 months old in August. I'd like to acknowledge the caregivers and the leadership from First Roots here tonight for all the incredible work that they do. They've allowed my wife and I to return to work without guilt or worry about her care, and they've made a meaningful impact on her development. We found First Roots and were moved to join them instantly when we saw the class size, the professionalism of its staff, and the good things that our neighbors who attend and our neighbors who work there had to say about the place. Seeing the progression of classes that our daughter would move through and the interaction that she would get, not only from children her age, but also from older children, was something that we saw instantly was going to be a benefit in her development. We understand the strain that real estate places on this and all Vermont communities and sympathize with the need for expansion. But as new parents, we'd like to have goalposts that are far enough away for us to make plans for our lives and for our child's future. Losing childcare so abruptly forces us to consider all options, to include leaving Underhill, finding a different town. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us parents. We're asking to extend the toddler program for another year and let our toddlers be the fast-moving, chaotic parts of our lives for now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So good evening. My name's Emily Chamberlain. My husband and I are previous, current, and future parents of students at First Roots Underhill in a space currently leased from MMU at 10 River Road. In an infant and toddler care desert, First Roots Underhill, or FRU, is an amazing nature-based infant and toddler program with qualified caring teachers and an outstanding family community. The leadership and parents were notified last week that this lease for the FRU space was to very unexpectedly end in July. I understand that this space will be used to fill the preschool need in this community. I do believe there is a need, and I'm excited that this district is extending its reach with extended pre-K. I am here to ask that additional time be allowed for a transition from one space to another for our First Roots program. Leaving this current space in July poses incredible challenges. Despite FRU leadership actively and quickly looking for an alternate space, parents are not guaranteed that the space would be secured, possibly renovated, licensed, and open before August. As a parent, I fear possibly that my currently enrolled one-year-old and my future infant will not have infant or toddler care secured starting in August. Finding alternative care within 4 months is an almost unrealistic ask. For our family, this would mean I may have to leave my job as a flight nurse for the medical center in order to ensure care for my 2 youngest children and to move to a single income household. That's not an exaggeration. Those are discussions we're having at the dinner table. I'm not fully aware of the reason for the abruptness of stopping the lease, what the board had known in this decision or was thinking or privy to close the FRU location. Or what the process would be for extending the lease, but I'm appealing to this board to consider the impact on families in this community. I believe the ask is realistic, a 1-year lease extension, and the impact would uphold the leadership philosophy core values outlined in the superintendent's entry plan, trust building, responsibility sharing, and done with strategic partnership and shared responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Hill. I live at 421 Browns Trace here in Jericho with my wife, Sarah, and our daughter, Eleanor. Eleanor has attended First Roots Underhill since she was 4 months old. I'm here as a parent, a neighbor, a small business owner, and someone who believes that this community looks out for each other. When my wife and I found out she was pregnant in August of 2024, the first calls we made weren't to friends or to family. They were to local childcare centers. We sent emails, went on tours. We did our research, and in short, we planned ahead. Finding quality infant, toddler childcare in Vermont is incredibly difficult. I hopefully don't need to tell you that demand for spots far outstrips the supply. In this state, wait lists aren't months long, they are years long. And when we got a call from First Roots 10 days before my wife's maternity leave was ending, we felt we had won the lottery. And we really did. The educators at First Roots are exceptional, and we feel incredibly fortunate that our daughter is in their care. My wife works full time. As I said, I run a small business that's in the process of expanding operations, a move that has taken nearly 2.5 years of very careful patient planning and execution. Childcare is not a convenience for us. It is foundational to how our lives function. When we got the word last week that this lease was ending in only 4 months, we felt blindsided. Without reliable care, we aren't really sure what to do. Sarah's income primarily supports our family, and I've made commitments I just cannot back out of. So in short, we built our lives around having access to the quality care that First Roots offers after very careful life planning. So I recognize that the board has to make difficult decisions about space and resources, and I can respect that. But I'd ask you to, in return, recognize that the families here tonight, those that weren't able to make it, those who are with us virtually, did not choose this compressed timeline. We've been handed it. This decision seems to have been rushed and without transparency or forethought on its impacts to the community. to give us only 4 months to find an alternative disregards the careful planning we all undertook and the impact this has on the lives of us as parents and our children. And for many of us, there simply is no good alternative. So tonight I'm asking you respectfully to act with a sense of urgency that this decision requires and extend the lease for First Roots. Give them the time they need to explore suitable alternatives because this school and this community deserves that much. Please don't make parents choose between their children's care and their careers. Please show us that you understand the value of high quality early childhood education and just how important it is to our community. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Owen LaPierre. I live in Underhill on Sand Hill Road. Our daughter Madeline has been enrolled at First Roots since June of 2025. We're thankful that she was accepted at such a great program with such wonderful teachers in an area where there's really not many options for childcare, at least in the early childcare. It was an exhaustive search to find a program that would accommodate our daughter. We were on dozens of wait lists, some with over a year backlog of interested parents, deposits that were never refunded. The thought of having to start that process again on such short notice is daunting. We started searching for childcare the moment we found out that we were pregnant and were not accepted into a program until 6 months after Madeline was born. We were lucky that First Roots reached out to us with an opening at a time when we were afraid that we wouldn't have a place for her. Not having childcare is a major financial stress on our household. We're both full-time workers. We can't afford for either of us to stay home with her. And with the abrupt closure of First Roots Underhill, we would be thrown back into that stress and uncertainty, both mentally and financially. We're asking you to reconsider the termination of FRU's lease and allow them adequate time to find a suitable new location. 4 months is just not nearly enough time for all of this to be pulled together. This would be a major burden off many of the community members that rely on the care of their children at First Roots. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Anderson, and I live in the Underhill Flats area of Jericho. I have a kindergartner at UCS, as well as a student, one of the Blackbirds at First Roots Underhill. And I'm here to speak about that. But my son, Mac, has been attending First Roots since this past October, and the program has become like family to us. And I feel grateful every day I get to drop him off in our own community with the most beautiful backdrop of, it's incredible. And to see all of the kids enjoying the nature that surrounds them. When Mac was a baby, because we were on wait lists, I drove out of this community to bring him to a different program, only to drive back so that I could be a 4th grade teacher at Richmond. And that was really hard to leave the community. When we were accepted into First Roots and able to stay in this community, it felt amazing and felt like home. And one of the reasons that my husband and I moved back to Vermont after being away for about 10 years. The infant toddler care is vital to our community, and First Roots Underhill has provided that for 6 years. The decision to end their lease abruptly will cause undue hardship for many families. And I urge the school board to please extend the lease of First Roots Underhill for a year so that they can find a path forward and continue to serve the families in this community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Caitlin Hazelton. I live in Underhill, Pleasant Valley area. We've been a longtime family member of First Roots. My son Oliver started in 2022 and my daughter Evelyn in 2024. And each time
we had to wait until they were 9 months old to start because of the wait list and the timing of everything. So I will agree with everybody else that has spoken that wait lists are long and it's hard to find other care. And I think it's just been disappointing in how quickly this happened, and the what we feel is lack of communication and transparency with that. Feels very disruptive to our community, our own community that this is happening to. And now we're left scrambling to find care within our area. So I also ask that we extend the lease for a year so that we can find another location to continue this excellent childcare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Perry. I live on Nashville Road in Jericho. To Mr. Muldoon and the board. When searching for our first home years back, my husband and I made sure the school system for our future children would be first priority. Mount Mansfield School District was our top choice. We're fortunate to be part of this community. However, to say we're infuriated that this will be our first acquaintance with the district would be profoundly minimizing. Wednesday evening on March 18th, we, along with the other families, were notified First Roots of Underhill will be closing due to the school district terminating the lease as of July 24th, which factors in the 1-month grace period. When this decision was made, was whoever involved completely unaware how this would impact other members of this community who benefited from First Roots Underhill? Is the board aware of the impractical, in some cases almost impossible, wait times for opening in any daycare within a 20-30 mile radius? You've created a resolution for additional pre-K childcare, freed up additional classrooms, and created more revenue, all the while abandoning and frankly completely screwing over the families and children within your own backyard, specifically toddlers and infants who have the most needs within the state. You're robbing Peter to feed Paul, and it's blatantly obvious. It feels as if we're left to fend for ourselves with 4 months' notice and no consideration whatsoever. Working with First Roots to give them ample time to secure locations so children would not be displaced would have been the least you could do before filling those classrooms and providing a deadline. Instead, not only is this going to negatively impact children who attend First Roots Underhill learning development, bonds between other children made within classrooms, their teachers, and overall life structure, this will also cause additional stress within these households to frantically come up with a solution to something that seems irresponsibly considered or completely lack thereof, most of whom impacted are members of the same community you're trying to create solutions for. Selfishly, I'm most upset that this transition will occur right when my husband and I are anticipating bringing our second child into this world. Excuse me. I am deeply concerned about all the new transitions my first child will be facing with his new home environment, and now what once was a cherished, stable school environment to no longer be available thanks to your inconsideration. Mr. Muldoon, you've taken on this position with your philosophy claiming to be grounded in equity, connection, and innovation. What innovative ideas do you have to the families in this community being impacted? Add our children's names to a year-long wait list, find the quickest nanny available who might have its own limitations with increased costs, unreliable scheduling, and many other caveats I could speak on from experience. Should we quit our jobs? If connection is so strong, why did you decline a forum for the families of First Roots being impacted and deny the request to have this topic be at tonight's meeting? How is what you are doing being equitable to the children who will one day be part of the school system, or is that simply not your problem? Instead of asking, I am begging for this to be reconsidered for a year to give First Roots time to secure a new location for our children's future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Levesque. I live on Irish Settlement Road, and my son Leo attends First Roots. I'm going to reiterate what a lot of people have said, but bear with me. The decision to reclaim the Underhill ID property for district-run pre-K may look like an expansion on a spreadsheet, but for families on the ground, it is displacement. By ending the lease for First Roots Underhill, the district isn't creating new care. It is simply trading our community's only 5-star infant and toddler slots for pre-K seats. In Vermont, we all know that we live in a childcare desert. Finding a spot for an infant can take over a year. Giving families only 4 months' notice isn't just unrealistic, it's frankly devastating. If this move proceeds on this timeline, some parents in this room may be forced to leave their jobs. When there are no infant spots available in the county and your current provider is being evicted, quitting isn't a choice. It's the only option. I'm not here to block the district's long-term goals. We are here to ask for a fighting chance. We are asking the board to grant a 1-year lease extension. This gives First Roots the necessary time to find a new home and gives parents the time required to secure alternative care in a market that's currently at a standstill. Please don't solve a pre-K spacing issue by creating an infant care crisis. Give us time to do this right. Thank you.
Stan.
My name is Thomas Smith, and I live on Orr Road in Jericho. My daughter is in the toddler class at First Roots. My wife and I were so excited to learn recently about the pre-K expansion. Knowing we'd have a great and nearly full-time option was a huge relief. But we didn't realize that it would be at the expense of our own childcare and one of the only full-time infant and toddler daycare programs in our community. Last Friday, when we found out that our daycare would be closing to make space for this expansion, we were devastated and frustrated. First Roots has been a place where our daughter has thrived. She comes home each day full of light and laughter and often covered in mud after playing outside all day. It's perfect. We truly feel it is a special place and are so grateful that our early development is getting this kind of attention. It'll be a huge loss for our family and the community to lose First Roots. We've also been incredibly frustrated to learn that we're being given such little and short notice to handle this change. We're taking away a beloved program in which our daughter and her classmates are thriving. These are the building blocks to become creative, kind, smart, and adventurous students at pre-K and beyond. Not to mention the impact on the teachers and staff, and on us as working families who rely on these providers so deeply. Again, we're glad that more families will have access to pre-K, including ours, but expanding access for some children while abruptly eliminating care for 22 children and families is not a net gain for our community. It's a trade-off that deserves more scrutiny. Anyone with children can understand how little 4 months is when it comes to finding childcare. The current state of childcare meant that my wife and I put ourselves on wait lists before we even notified friends and family about the pregnancy. As I understand it, at the time this decision was made, there were more than 60 families in our community on the wait list for daycare at First Roots. As a middle school special educator myself, I can say that abruptly losing access to this kind of early childhood programming can cause significant harm to the families in our district. It seems only fair and acceptable that we would at least have more time in the current space to figure out an alternative space or a solution that invests in all the kids of our district. Not just pre-K, but our babies and our toddlers too. I urge you to reconsider the timeline and give First Roots a year to relocate, not simply 4 months.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Noxical. I live off Pinehurst Drive in Jericho. Wife and my daughter Lydia, who is currently enrolled in First Roots and will be a future MMUUSD student. I'm here to share how this sudden decision to evict First Roots Underhill impacts our family and families like ours. When my wife and I enrolled Lydia in FRU, it was because it offered a safe, stable, nature-focused environment with educators we trust, and they have provided our daughter with a home away from home full of safety, love, and learning for the last 1.5 years. And as 2 full-time working parents, First Roots provides an essential service that makes it possible for us to support our family. The announcement of its closure with such little notice has been devastating. Our community is already in the middle of a severe childcare and cost of living crisis. Infant and toddler care in the county is extremely limited, and for the Jericho Underhill area, it will be virtually non-existent. Waiting lists at nearby centers stretch for months, often more than a year. For families like mine, this isn't an inconvenience, it is a crisis. Without reliable childcare, we cannot maintain the jobs that put roofs over our heads and food on our tables. It is an impossible situation being forced on us parents. The goal of expanding pre-K access is an important one, but the current approach comes directly at the expense of infants and toddlers who now have nowhere to go. What makes this situation harder is knowing that it was a deliberate choice. With a reasonable transition period, Fru and families could have worked with the district on a solution that protected our children's well-being. Instead, we are left scrambling with almost no options. Thoughtful planning could have prevented this. Clear communication could have prevented this. The looming crisis can be averted by the actions of this district. So today I ask for reconsideration, not of the overall goal of expanding pre-K access, but of the timeline being forced upon us parents who depend on First Roots. Please grant an extension that allows Fru to remain open long enough for the program to relocate or for parents to secure safe, dependable alternatives. Please do not disrupt our livelihoods and our children's development. Please consider an extension of the First Roots lease. My daughter and all the other children who have found a home at First Roots depend on your understanding and your compassion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Sophie Patterson. I am a teacher at First Roots Underhill, and I am a former student of the Mount Mansfield Union District. I graduated last year and I came to First Roots right out of high school, and I worked there during high school, and it has inspired me to work with children. And in fact, it's inspired me to work in this district sometime in the future. I would really love to be able to expand my education, but I need to be able to have a job to do that. And the job that FRU has given me has helped me so much in working with children and learning all of the patience that I need. And I have really appreciated my time there, and I hope that we can continue to do this. Sorry, I didn't prepare a speech. I'm just going off. I also remember because I've been in this district my whole life, and I have loved the MMU district, and I really hope to support you guys in the future as a middle school or high school teacher. And one thing that I remember when I did go to UCS is your expectation to and your hopes to expand the nature at UCS. I remember there was once upon a time where you extended the UCS classrooms into an outdoor space, which is exactly what FRU does and exactly what we strive to do every day. We enlist these values in children of enjoying and learning from nature from every aspect. And I hope that someday when I come to this district, I will have taught some of these kids from infants until then. And I hope that I can still keep doing that and that we can find a space for me to be able to do that and to support the money for an education to become a teacher in this district. And I hope that we can get an extra year on our lease for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Natalie Noctical. I'm a mother of Lydia and wife of Eric Noctical, who spoke earlier. I live off of Pinehurst in Jericho, and I'm a current family at FRU. I don't have a prepared statement, just a couple bullets, but I do want to make sure I share our family story that echoes so many that you've heard already. When we first moved to Jericho, I got on the wait list for FRU like day 2. We signed and I immediately signed on the wait list. 6-7 months later, we got a call that we were accepted, and we were thrilled because that is unheard of to get an infant toddler spot in 6 months. Most people, as you've heard, get on wait lists as soon as they find out they have a positive pregnancy test. So 4 months to find new toddler spots is absolutely unrealistic for any of the families here, and why it's such a devastating blow to us. The other piece, personally, it is such a impactful disruption in our family because I am a current cancer battler, I guess, and I've been undergoing cancer treatments for the last 1.5 years. First Roots has been such a piece of stability during that time that you just don't get as a cancer patient. So having a safe, reliable place for my child to go that I know she is thriving and has very strong relationships when her home life is being disrupted by something out of our control, it's incredibly important and so deeply and emotionally important for my whole family. So we're gearing up for a second round of cancer treatments. As a mother, first-time mother in her 30s, to get a notice that now I have to find childcare when in 2 weeks I'm going through massive surgeries that I won't be able to care for my daughter during the time that the school is closing, it is a huge blow and adds so much significant stress to our family. So that's just a personal reason on top of all the other community reasons, especially since, as you've heard, this school is not just a place for our kids to be cared for. It is our community. We built relationships with the teachers, the directors, the other families there. So I really want to stress that it's not just a disruption for my personal family and my personal circumstance, but it's a disruption in the community that we built, which as Vermonters, I think that's a really core value that we all hold. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is that with with that finding, it's just the infant and toddler care in the areas we all know it's very low. I also understand that pre-K very low, spots are really hard to find, but it's unreasonable to expect all the current families to find that care in 4 months. So I want to also please consider an extension of the lease for 1 year. That's a reasonable amount of time to find alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who wanted to speak before we move online? Please.
Hello, my name's John Arena. I live in Cloverdale area. And
Did you say Underhill?
Cloverdale, it's Underhill.
Is it Underhill?
Yeah, Seymour Road.
Okay, thanks.
Be specific, but
No, in general, we only take community comments from folks that live in our 5 towns. So when you said Cloverdale, I wasn't familiar with it. And that's
yeah, it's like, yeah, maybe it's just a map thing. Yes, Underhill, Seymour Road. Sorry. Everything that's been said tonight is very on point and is very much what I think every one of us as parents who have children at the First Roots school, daycare, have in mind. And the one thing I want to reiterate and kind of mention, just as I am here, is the community aspect of it, and having a consistency, having something that aligns with, I think, everyone who goes there, at least their mindset for early childhood development. And it's so prudent to have consistency and to have and have that certain type of care. And I know that we all care so much about having that be there for us that I think that I just wanted to reiterate it and just say that without this program here, that it's going to be a challenge. I know that for our own family, that much like other people, it would put a burden on us, and that changing jobs and to change what we can do each week, and finding new daycare, new early childhood care is such a burden that I don't know how in this short time we could accommodate that. And in this economy, in this world we're living in, having a place that is consistent for all of our different reasons, it's so prudent and so important, that I just wanted to, I agree with everything that's said, and my heart goes out to each parent that's been here to present in front of everyone, because we all have our own different things going on, but we know that the program that we're involved in the school district that we're all incorporated in is so important for us to continue on and to give our kids the best start we can give them. And I think that's why a lot of us moved here, and that a lot of us want to be in this area, is because there is care and the community cares. And much like Vermont, any other part of Vermont, this area shows up, and we try to do what's right for each other. So that's what I want to leave it with, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Last call for in the room. Heidi, you have your hand up. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. I'm Heidi McCabe, and I live on Irish Settlement in Underhill. And I'm here with Torin, who was signed up to go to First Roots in June. I was really just moved by all of your speeches, and I just wanted to advocate as well and share my story. I have a 5-year-old entering kindergarten next year. A preschooler, a 3-year-old going to the new preschool program, and then Torin was going to be, who of course we've got on the list because we've been through it with the other 2 kids. We got on the list right away, so that was my saving grace that he was going to be in the program. I was really just thrilled to hear about the new preschool program that was and how all the parents showed up to advocate for that through the various towns. I used to live in Underhill. I used to live in Huntington, and I could just see the community showing up for the preschool program in Huntington and all the different needs for all of the towns. But it was just really upsetting, like everyone has said, to hear this program closing in short notice when we were all counting on that. I currently drive 45 minutes to drop my 2-year-old off in another town and then drive back to work from home with my baby. That my work doesn't know that I work with my baby, and I've just been holding my breath trying to make it work with my husband until next year. But now I'm not sure. I'm a family who qualifies for subsidy 100%, so it's not something we can afford to get a nanny. And then the last thing I'll say is just that I know a couple families on our street who have been looking for preschool and toddler care, and we've tried to do a nanny share and just haven't found anyone in the community. And they've been on the First Roots wait list for over a year as well. So I just know I've been through it. It's my 3rd kid. I know how rough it is out there to get on the wait list, and just hope and pray. So I'm hoping that we can come to a conclusion over the next couple of weeks that will help all the families out. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. I don't see any other hands online. So I think we can move into the certification of the FY27 budget validation vote. I will need somebody to read the language on the agenda to make the motion, please.
I move that the board reaffirms and adopts the warning of the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District dated January 12th, 2026, and signed by all members of the board as discussed at its January 12th, 2026 meeting, and the public informational meeting held, gosh, this is a long sentence, held on March 2nd, 2026, and is posted to the public and used to create ballots. The board acknowledges a typographical error in Article 4 affecting some ballots whereby the wrong year is printed. With that knowledge, the board hereby reaffirms the results vote taken on March 3rd, 2026.
Thanks. Discussion?
Was primarily affecting the balance of risk.
Yes.
My only discussion is really pertaining to accepting this, but this is the second time I believe that Richmond's done something irregular in our school board elections in the short time I've been on the board. I don't know.
Speak up.
I was gonna say, this is the second time Richmond has done something irregular during school, either school board or budget elections. So I do think we may want to talk to them.
So I've worked with the Board of Authority in Richmond, and also with the clerk, so the error is understood. There's a commitment for accuracy moving forward. I should point out, it impacted the absentee ballots in other communities as well. So it was not just a Richmond piece, but the issue persisted at Richmond through Election Day.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Vote, right. See, I need you right there, Kevin. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the March 9th minutes?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, minutes passed. The UID conversation. Looking at you because you wanted to add it to the agenda.
I'm late. Yeah, I'll start the conversation. Thank you, for putting some time on the, agenda for obviously what is an important topic. Might even be important enough to say this is our counts as our training, for policy governance. See where the discussion goes and how long it takes, but, yeah, I just want to, seems like a lot of people are reading, so I just want to read first, my initial response. So I wrote this to Tara and John over the weekend. I'm also concerned about the Peter Paul situation. I believe the sequence should have been to first identify an alternative location and then announce how the vacated space would be used. Announcing the change before First Roots had a new home creates the impression that pre-K is being prioritized over early age care. Both are equally important from my perspective, and as a district, we have taken pride in helping the community establish and sustain early childhood services. Let's keep in mind, some of you were on the board 7 years ago. The original reason for making the space available for 0 to 3 care was the lack of suitable locations for this much needed service in our area. When we closed the Underhill ID school, technically repurposed it. We made commitments to repurpose the building for exactly these kinds of community services. By moving forward in this way, we have put that service at risk and rightly or wrongly left young families feeling like the rug was pulled out from under them. This is not the relationship that we want with the families who will soon be entering our schools. That's probably been made at this point, but I didn't know we would have so many voices representing that. Okay. So the decision process. The decision has a significant impact on the community, and I believe the board should have been more involved. That's up for discussion. It also sets a governance precedent, potentially. If the administration can decide the fate of this lease, what prevents the same approach with the library lease in like 80 years from now? So I think I'd ask that this was pointed towards John, asked that you reflect on the process and the authority used in this case and discuss with the chair the appropriate level that the board involvement in future facilities lease decisions, and hoping that we could talk about it today. So that gets us up to speed. Yeah, I mean, I just want to appreciate the amount of time that the families took to come tonight. I know, you know, how crazy it is to have little guys and girls and having to carve out time to just prepare. I think it's a very powerful statement. I think for me, I'm a process person, so I'm like equally wanting to discuss the role that the board has when it comes to lease decisions as a district. I don't think we specifically call that out in our policies, and so therefore it's kind of by default delegated to the superintendent. But I think in this case, it has a pretty significant community impact, as you can see. And I think the board should reconsider at some point in time in the future to what level we maintain approval in lease decisions, in particular changes to leases. When I was talking to John earlier today, you know, if a decision to continue, maybe that's not, you know, significant for us because that's status quo, but a decision to change, I think our lease, that should probably come to the board. And it was interesting to hear that there was some type of precedent set early on, you know, that the organization was under the impression that it would renew. And I think that's an important piece to consider, especially given the time. It sounds like all that's being asked is a 1-year extension. I don't, you know, there's so little space. I don't know how one would, you know, the reason why we did this originally was because this was the only space to have something like this in our community. You know, I hope that in 1 year something can be found, but maybe we have to build a second story or make some more space ourselves to make room for this very important service.
And I'll piggyback on that. I was having the same feelings about trying to figure out where this fit into the policy governance. And I'd pulled up our practice, our rehearsal thing for tonight, and it really kind of, it runs parallel. It's almost like it got picked intentionally, so it works out. I also want to thank you all for coming and speaking. Both my kids were First Roots, Wild Roots kids, Fireflies. So I appreciate that the First Roots programming really aligns with what we've identified as community core values. And we saw that come through in the pre-K forms that went out and all of those surveys that went out to parents. And I think that we just know that in general. So I think, Kevin, I agree. I want to understand the process. I know I'm fairly new to the policy governance thing, and this is that wishy-washy area where it feels like this is a decision that I would have expected to hear about or have a discussion about or something ahead of time. And it felt surprising that that wasn't the case. I also can't find a compelling part in any of our policies that says that we absolutely should have been notified ahead of time. So that's where I'm still on like the wishy-washy policy governance piece.
I just want to quickly say this because I'm thankful and grateful to everyone coming, both online and in the room, because 10 years ago, this happened to me, where the small childcare place in Richmond gave us very short notice about closing, and we scrambled. So I know I'm acutely aware and I empathize. And regarding policy governance, when John and I talked about this, I interpreted this as it's operational, it goes to the superintendent. We can have a discussion at the board, but I don't think we are the decision makers here. And we can have further conversations about what it looks like for our district as landlords, which is very different than our district as a place of education and educating our community. So it was my interpretation of our policies to just clearly say, this is operational, it's day-to-day, this falls under John's jurisdiction, not ours.
Sure. I would just like to start for families I haven't met. I'm John Muldoon. I'm the superintendent. I've corresponded with some of you via email, and I just want to appreciate that people have made the time to come here today and the conversations that I've had with people in advance of this meeting. If I were to provide a big picture overview of the situation that the district is in and what has led to these decisions, I think that that might be helpful. And the district is very much stuck between a rock and a hard place. We have a legal duty to provide certain services to students in our pre-K aged group. More than, or almost 2/3, just over 60% of our preschool age children are not able to find preschool age or preschool slots within the district. And we have a very large concentration of students requiring special education services that don't have a program that will take them, and we're space constrained ourselves in terms of our ability to take them. So we have 138 students in the program right now in pre-K, and 198 students that we're not able to serve internally. And so many people reference the conversations that happened both with the board and in the community earlier this year about the expansion of our pre-K program. And so we looked at several different sites across the district where we could potentially have the space to make that expansion. First Roots is actually one of the providers that submitted a proposal to us through our request for proposals process. It was not selected, and we've developed our internal program instead. And we have landed in the space with an overwhelming response for our pre-K program, and not enough space to put the students. And so in conversation with First Roots, and I'm not sure the level of detail sometimes to go into, but I would say the lease was ending, right? So we're not ending an existing lease. It was ending. The structure of the lease is that it does not renew unless it's explicitly agreed to in advance to renew. I would strongly argue that the district provided no indication that the lease would be renewing or that would not be a problem. As a matter of fact, the lease was almost not renewed the last time it was up for renewal. And so I feel like that expectation has been made clear to First Roots, and First Roots has been very clear with us that the space that they have is not tenable for their program, that it is not profitable for them unless they are able to extend their programming and provide greater scale. And so we were put in a position where we had to make a very difficult choice. And this is, in fact, the choice that we made.
Can I jump
Yeah,
in on
please.
the lease conversation? Because I was involved in that conversation in September. So that was part of a meeting with Andrew and Andrea from First Roots. I'm talking about a meeting that I had with Andrew and Andrea back in like September, October timeframe. They came over to discuss a question about windows and electricity, et cetera. And they had mentioned the lease at that point. This is September, October, and this is well before we've ever signed a lease agreement, at least in my time here. And these pre-K expansion programs were not happening at that conversation was not happening at that time. So I can assure you that there was no intention ever to mislead First Roots about the extension of the lease. We just weren't ready to get to that point yet. With the lease ending 6/30/26, I'll say that the last FRU lease extension was signed after the 7/1 start date, technically, of the lease. So it's been very common practice that we have not provided them a lease extension 6 months before the lease is ending. Again, that's just been my time here, which is the last 4 years. So.
Thanks, Nicole.
What were the lease terms? How long was it the lease for?
The last lease was a 3-year lease. No, I'm sorry. It was a 2-year lease. And back to John's point, every time leases, both with First Roots and Saxon Hill,
have come to term, the requests from both directors or owners have always been a 3-year lease. And John Alberghini last time was hesitant to go with a 3-year lease, not knowing what the district's needs for those spaces would be. So he only was comfortable with moving forward with a 2-year lease term the last time.
Edie.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things that I heard when we have been losing money on our preschool programs for a number of years. And so anyone who thinks that we're making changes for preschool to make money, I just want to be very clear. If we do it well, we might break even. And so we need to expand preschool because it's part of the law. It's part of what we have to do for our community. And the thought that we're creating hardship for our families is absolutely not what we want to do, right? Our whole goal is to have our community being served as best possible. I know this is less than a week out, and that our district has been scrambling to try to help First Roots find spaces in the area. So that's not our job either. And it is the best thing that for us to do to make sure that all of our families have the supports they have come to be able to have in our spaces. And so that is going to be the continued process, right? How do we support, we're rural Chittenden County. How do we make sure our families get the support that they need all the way through in all the ways that they need them? We're hearing birth to 3 today. We heard preschool a few meetings ago. We hear about kids with developmental needs all the time that don't have services, and we're expanding our programs within our schools. So again, I really want folks to understand this is like the very early days of trying to figure this out. I put a lot of faith in our district and in our community into being able to find solutions, even in these tough times. And again, super appreciative for everyone to come and share their stories, because most of us have been there. Most of us have been in these situations and have either, had to stay home or been able to find something, or, figured it out because we were lucky enough to have family. I didn't, but, lucky enough to have family around, like all of the things. Like this is not new, and we want to do better. And so we're in a position now where we are going to do what we can, hopefully with First Roots, to support the families in our community. But this is not being done to make money. Like that is 100% not the goal here. The goal is to best support the community with the resources and the space that we have. And I can find policies that we need to talk about.
Thanks, Edie.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think from what I'm hearing and reading, it's the pace that is the issue, not so much the decision. And, the realization that this is a big change and very difficult to accommodate in a short period of time without, really disrupting some of our community members. And, had the district made this decision 6 months ago, maybe we wouldn't be here. So we're moving pretty quickly. And I think because of that is what's caused the disruption, not so much, I think people can wrap their head around, it's a district building. The district's needs probably need to come before the community's needs. If we can support the community and the district at the same time, that's great, but it can't just happen overnight. And I think to some, it feels like it's an overnight reaction.
I think that's a good point. The pace of change is pretty high right now in general, but especially with pre-K and some of the space utilization conversations that we've been having. I think for me that is why, I mean, Edie's point is also well taken. The amount of time we've put into trying to connect with the community and try and find space. I think that is priority number one right now in terms of trying to make sure that this program or programs like it can stay in the district. We also have been engaged in advocacy in Montpelier for resources to expand programs like this, whether they're private or through the district. And I think all of those play a role at different timeframes.
I wanted to just add a few comments. First of all, thanks to all of you. And with young children at home, we certainly know it's not easy. And showing up in person is certainly powerful. And it's a really difficult situation. And I too was very surprised when we got the email from you, John. And I immediately wanted to go to problem solving because I don't want this to happen. I want to figure something out. And I know we all feel that way. And you did ask us, John, to, if we have any leads on spaces to, be thinking, and we're all thinking, I know I am. And I just want to say, how can we help, John? Is there more that we can do? I know this is not our role, but we're all in this together, all of us. And so just thinking about, what else is possible for us to do.
I mean, I think the number one priority for us is trying to help First Roots find a viable alternative space. I mean, I would encourage everybody. I mean, every place I've stopped in the district over the past week, I've been asking people, and we've connected with planning commission members and select board members and town officials and local churches and anybody that we could find on an old registry of childcare providers that isn't on a current registry of childcare providers. So I think those are pieces that we've been doing as a district, but as a community group, many of the people here tonight mentioned how people here show up for each other. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is just asking everyone in our circle if they know of viable locations or have any leads for us. And if you have any, I would send them to me. I can pass them on to First Roots.
Can you tell us some of like the parameters? What type of a building, or what are we looking for?
That's a question that I asked Andrea and Andrew, and so they're willing to build out a space if necessary. So their criteria is really just that it has heat and plumbing, and they could potentially make the rest work. We started with that list of previously registered childcare providers, just because there are build out requirements, especially around plumbing and bathrooms and pieces like that. If you want, I can send you a handout electronically just about the different pieces that go into that.
Is the staff and student capacity of the current program? We know.
First program?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than 20 children, 20 children that they see, but staff capacity, I'm not sure.
Once you get over 25 or 25 and more, you have to be a public water system, which is not realistic to do in 4 months. So they're either going to have to find a building that's already attached or considered a non-community, non-transit public water system, or basically Richmond would maybe be the only other option with their public water system already in place. Not many other spots, I think, that have bigger water systems, correct? No. Maybe focusing some of the community spaces in Richmond.
The town center. But Ethan.
Question and then maybe a comment. When did you let us know that this was happening? Which board meeting?
So we had talked about, without getting specific as to places, during the pre-K conversation about actual expansion capacity at the UID site at Richmond Elementary, Brewster Pierce, and at Smiley. We I'd have to go back and find the exact date. We talked about the lack of space in Jericho or at UCS, and so that those weren't options for us. Typically, we have not in open sessions talked about specific contracts in advance of actually settling on a course of action. So last week, Nicole and I, we had hopes, I should say, of an alternate solution up until about a week and a half ago. And then when we were not able to secure that, we set up a meeting with Andrea and Andrew and notified them last week. And then the board was notified right after that meeting.
I mean, just, again, appreciations for being here and talking about the challenge that's in front of us. Steve, I'm thinking along the same lines, like, what is the licensing protocols for a new space? You have to have division of fire safety, obviously, look at a place. There is a lot of hoops to jump through. So I do wonder about like that timeline. Kind of what Kevin said. I also feel like in terms of that policy governance perspective, I think this is administrative decision, and I don't think it's necessarily the board's purview to step in to decide whether it's ending a lease, not renewing a lease. Those things might need to be further clarified in policy. But I support the administration and decision making. I know it's really hard. Yeah, I mean, I wish there could be a solution that worked for everyone, but ultimately that is more often not the case than it is. So, again, feeling really, really bad for the situation, but understanding kind of the steps and how we got here and why we're here.
If it helps your search at all for trying to help find different solutions, at capacity of our space right now, we hope to have 9 staff and 22 students. So if you're looking for other options, that's our capacity for the space we have right now. We hope to expand into a preschool, but that's not something that we can do yet. So
Currently licensed for 28.
we are.
Thank you. Board, is there anyone else that wants to add to this conversation?
I had a question that I wasn't quite sure about. The addition of.
Can I ask you to pause just for a sec, because we've had our community comments time. We've gone through the rest of our agenda. Typically, we don't allow for any exchange or community comment. I'm willing to ask the board if they would be willing to hear your comment, if that's what you'd like.
It's just a clarification, just so understanding.
Everyone? Yes. Good. Okay, please.
If the addition of the having the PK added to the district, how many students are you anticipating to have, and how much space are you in need of to have capacity for students? When I looked over the notes from pre-meeting and things, I didn't see what that was exactly clarified as. So is it that you have 18 students that you don't have space for, so to speak, or is it that there is more than 30 students who are coming in as pre-K kind of thing? And I just wanted to know, because that may help find a space otherwise too, in that way. I just wanted to understand where the district was with the need of the amount of students they were looking to have and the space that they needed to have capacity for.
John, I think you said those numbers earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, happy to just rehash that. So in general, we have 200 students, right, pre-K age students for next year who are not served by the district's pre-K program. In this year, we have 138 who are. The expansion of the pre-K program at the UID site will be able to bring 30 to 45 new students into the space. And as part of that, we're expanding from partial week programming, so either 2 or 4 days, depending on the age of the student, to 5 days a week for each student. With the only exception being there's a elective program for 3-year-olds if families want to opt into a partial day to do so, or a partial week, 2 or 3 day option. So at the UID site, the First Root space brings additional 30 to 45 seats for pre-K.
And we could use 4 more of those classrooms around the district.
Yep,
Easily.
absolutely. So we're expanding pre-K capacity. Really, so we're adding 50% more capacity for next year. It is at best case a revenue neutral solution for us, so we are not able to expand as fast as there is demand. And so 4 was the prudent step for next year. We hope in future years to add more.
So just to make it simple, so we're at 138 right now. Expansion would bring us to over 200 student capacity. And there's still another 100 students that need potentially pre-K.
So I would say those numbers sound roughly right, with the asterisks that enrollment confirmations happening right now. Yeah.
Just a little kind of going forward question or request, I guess, to just be updated update the board as this process goes on, and if spaces are found or not found. I think that's just have the line of communication open.
John, can you speak to the liability the district has?
Steve, I nodded yes to Kevin, not to you. I'm going to start to be more vocal.
Steve and Kyle are
I know,
competing
they're
hands.
like-
It won't-
On either side too. Go ahead.
Can you
You
speak?
can arm wrestle for it.
We're saying this is like a state mandated thing, like providing pre-K. We're 60% underserved, which is pretty substantial. Like, what is our district liability for that, since it's like a state mandated requirement as well?
So so there is not a requirement to serve 100% of your pre-K age population, provided you act as a fiscal agent for Act 166 funds. So historically, districts have kind of relied on that asterisk. The challenge that we have is that we are not in compliance, and we are in a position of liability because we are not providing the special ed services to the degree that are required for early childhood education. So we have 2 areas of non-compliance. The first is students with special needs that have not been able to find a placement in a partner site, and also do not have a placement in one of our programs. We're space constrained, so as those students emerge, we are often not able to move them into our program immediately, and so that creates issues of non-compliance for us as a district. The other is that the majority of our 200 families right now that are in a pre-K program, not with us, are in South Burlington or Williston, and then there's another bubble of them in Essex. It's not possible for us to provide the special education services often when they are that far away. And it's a gray area because by attending an Act 166 site outside of the district, we're not required to provide those services on site, but we are required to provide those services, and that often creates a scheduling conflict families in the district can't overcome.
So they forego services.
That's right. We have a substantial population of children identified for special ed services that are forced to forego them.
Kevin?
I was just thinking like how to catch this without getting into the weeds, and the finance committee has a charter that kind of says here's what the finance committee will do. One of those is, approve purchases over $50,000, and using that as a bit of a precedent, we could expand that, to sign lease agreements over a certain amount, or just any in general. It would be review versus approve, just so we're aware that that's happening. And then we might say, oh, wow, this one's gonna fill the chairs in the next meeting. Maybe we should have a conversation about it before. Rather than just say, we're out. And so what I would suggest, is we take that up at the finance committee meeting next time. And if I'm there, I'll bring it up. Maybe we can discuss, making a change to that charter for something like this.
Or to use 2.5 asset protection. Number 2, which is endanger the organization's public image, its credibility, or its ability to accomplish its ends as a reason to review things like this.
Yeah,
We don't have to change
searching
anything.
for the word facade and it wouldn't come up, but didn't we have facade in that policy at one point? Change the facade of a building, but
Oh, I
Remove that.
I think we could do and on that because at some point we have to, you know, because that's always done. These monitoring reports are done after the fact. So I think, that's where it might get covered, but in terms of where we're looking at those agreements, maybe the finance committees where we could cover it. Not necessarily going to do anything for the urgent issue here, but next time.
And redirect me to the finance committee if this bleeds into that. But I'm wondering, Kevin, like I think what Edie is saying in like using an existing policy and trying to make sure that it's appropriately structured versus changing a charter. I'm thinking about like, we have a extended lease with the library. We have some short-term leases at UID. We probably have some other leased equipment. I'm thinking like vehicles.
Land.
Yeah, but are we gonna get into that? I mean, I guess that would be another conversation to have, like, what is the depth? I'm worried that we're trying to address a situation. And like you said, like, I like that what you said about process, like figuring out what that process is and making sure that, the harm has been done. At this point, what can we do to like do more harm reduction in the future and like set up future boards and future family members and community members from being kind of put in this position. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm also like, how much of the weeds are we actually going to like dig up for ourselves at this point?
And is it our space to get into those weeds? Is it even the committee's responsibility to get into those weeds?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we need like that in that conversation, like what is that asset list that we're looking at, sort of putting our sort of fingerprints on, so that we're fully informed and not getting into like, oh boy, now we have to approve some really insignificant lease purchase for some software that maybe is happening. I don't know.
I know we're getting close to wrapping up, but I think we're getting started. I have a little comment. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm frantically looking for a document that I can't find that shows that Jericho is one of the few towns in the state that's actually growing in the number of student population. And I think that's excellent. And I think that's part of why we're struggling here, right? Because our school population has been declining since the 90s, and we finally stabilized, and now we're growing. And we're in a tough time. I mean, I know, right, like it's really important to understand our board responsibility, all these other things, but there's contextual information as well. And if I find that map somewhere, I will share it with the board because I know I have it in here. So it's just another piece of information, right? How do we ensure that we're continuing to support our growing community? We want more. We have space. Well, we may not need more. At some point we had space in our schools. I've been saying that. I've been saying like, how do we get more kids? And clearly we don't have room for more kids. And so how do we support the families that we have?
Thank you. Go ahead, Claire.
Make just one quick comment. I agree with Ethan on that. I think that as far as policy governance, this squarely falls on the superintendent from all the trainings and stuff I've been to. But I also feel that like maybe when making decisions that may be controversial in any way, shape, or form, that as a board, we get as much notice as possible would be helpful in the future.
Yes, I would agree with that. I also appreciate you talking through the timing. It sounds like this wasn't on the radar. This wasn't the first choice up until 2 weeks ago. That's good information to have. Obviously, there's privileged information in there, but that the communication as soon as possible to as many people as possible is important, obviously.
So you all found out right after John and I talked. So you received notification as soon as you were able to get notification. So please don't think we were sitting on this for 4 weeks and just thought to tell you. Because then I would have pointed to Edie because she would have still been the board chair. So yes, you found out as
And families, again, sorry, I didn't say it. I really appreciate it, all you coming. It's this is a difficult situation for everyone. And this, I appreciate your voices and hope that there's solutions to be found. And they found out within days, it sounds like, after the decision was made. So there's not much lag there.
I think this would be the second time we've kind of had this kind of awkward communication issue too, because it's not our responsibility to communicate with the families directly. We had the same issue with part 2 when they were rolling back the program in Huntington for next year. And we sometimes are put in a place where we have knowledge, but not even necessarily the means to communicate directly with the impacted population.
Can we move on to S220?
Heavy to heavy.
You know, the legislature's in session, so it is heavy.
Are we ready for chocolate yet?
2 minutes,
Please.
take minutes.
Can take 2 minutes before we start our training.
We're moving chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like changing the budget when it's on the floor. You should have full control of it.
Because there's a sound of applause, still, 1 year out of high school.
Some of the track.
It was wonderful.
It's wrong.
Very impressive that it up so big. Yeah, we don't need bills.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
Keep up. Well, not now.
Kevin, when I give 2 minutes, I seem to lose control forever. I think that was in our last meeting.
I stopped at Richmond Market on the way over, along with every other resident of Richmond. The line is
So S220, I apologize for the density of, I don't know if that's the right term. This is something that has been developing rapidly. So originally S220 was a cap on spending increases in Senate education, or Senate finance.
Email.
Thank you.
Which is, has kind of constitutional issues in the state potentially. And so this conversation has come up almost every year that I have worked in Vermont. And the conversation always ends up then converting to a discussion about the excessive spend threshold, which has been a legally proven mechanism in the state. This was, Edie, was this revised downwards last year or was it 2 years ago, the last revision? Do you remember?
I think it was 2 years ago. I don't think it was last, year, but don't quote me.
So in the past 2 years, this number was revised down in response to public pressure around school budgets. The way that how familiar are people with how the mechanism works?
How what work?
The mechanism, the excessive spend.
To just do a quick.
If you were on the Underhill ID school board, you were very familiar with.
This mechanism has evolved over time, and then post Act 127, FY 25 average spending across the state is used as the benchmark. So that's the level that was set, the average spending per weighted pupil across the state in FY 25. There is a inflation measure called the NEAP, which is used as that Northeast.
New England economic something.
So it's a New England, it's an inclusive New England inflation measure that is used. And so that is adjusted up each year at that number. And I think the original number was you could exceed, or the original percentage was you could exceed that number by 122%. And then either last year or the year before, that was reduced to 118%. And S220 is now going to a third reading and likely approval in the Senate tomorrow at 112%. So the way that works is you take that base number and you multiply by 1.12, and then you get the amount that you can't exceed. But I should actually say the amount that the threshold is. You can exceed that, but then you are taxed at a double rate for every dollar past that point. And so that has proven to be a very effective deterrent for districts to exceed that threshold. We as a district have not historically even been on the green for consideration with a threshold like this. And what we see happening is there's two provisions in the threshold that force us to that figure. So one, we know that as a district, Act 127 substantially reduced our student counts compared to the rest of the state. So our spending gets concentrated because it's divided by the number of students that we have, weighted students that we have. The other factor is that we have one of the lowest debt burdens of any school district in the state. So as a district, we have either retired debt or not taken on debt for capital projects when other districts have. And so we have a lot of pride in our facilities. We have adequately funded our repairs, maintenance, and capital improvements out of the operating budget each year. And this mechanism now includes an exclusion for debt. And so we are in a unique position because other districts that would normally be pushing back against this are not impacted by it because of the debt exclusion. And that leaves a few districts such as ourselves that have low debt, have had a rapidly shrinking student count since Act 127 that are impacted by this. And so one thing to note is that the Joint Fiscal Office modeling is off a little bit. So for example, they don't have any of our excluded debt in the calculation itself. So we've had to kind of go back and correct for that. I met with other superintendents today and everybody seems to have some kind of other kind of data error with it, but it is close enough to accurate that we can look at it. And so really what this means for us is we would be limited if the NEAP is predictable and does what it's done for the past couple of years, we would be limited to, I forget what the actual percentage in here was, but somewhere in the realm of a 2% increase in our education spending next year.
The budget we've already passed.
FY 28.
FY 28. So for our next budget cycle, 2.61%. I mean, our cost drivers are likely to exceed that. So that just sets us up for rounds of continued cuts. And so I don't know what's going to happen if this passes the Senate tomorrow as it's expected to. It's going to go to the House. The House is likely to pass a modified version of this is what I'm told. And then it would go to conference to get hashed out. So we don't really know if it's going to be 112%. Hopefully that gets revised upwards. The VSA, VSBA, and the VPA, which is the Principals Association, issued a joint letter today. I forwarded that to you right before our board meeting. And Tara and I are going to work on some communication from us to our reps and senators, just informing them of the impact on our district. I've had several conversations today with different members of our legislative team, just to make sure that they are aware of the impact. The big problem that I have with this bill, and that the VSA or our joint associations is trying to raise, is that it absolutely does nothing to address cost drivers for schools. All it seeks to do really is put downward pressure on local school budgets. So that's my 10,000-foot view of what I sent you, because I recognize it is long.
Just a question. This is, not a question. This is a comment, really. This is the Philip Ruth sponsored piece that he then is also leaving the legislature. So, okay. So yeah, this is,
yeah,
that's my comment.
Before we merged, they were a big deal for us. Bolton and Underhill ID were constantly teetering with excess spending, and it was, I think, successful in helping districts consolidate. Like, it is, history would suggest that's a lever, not necessarily effective at containing cost, but maybe puts pressure for other things. And I agree, it's probably a discussion for finance committee, but yes, and I think historically we've looked at funding different things, parts of the budget differently because of the need to avoid the spending threshold.
We would have had taken out, done a big project and had a lot of debt, we would be in a better position.
That's it. Okay.
Well,
It's not school.
The new HVAC system in
That's us.
Huntington.
I think it has an implication for the finance committee to think about in terms of how we fund the capital improvement plan, which we're working to kick off development of right now. I will just say, in terms of operational cuts, after going through, we're almost done our meetings with the principals and department heads about staffing and budget for next year. We are really and this has been true for a couple of years for us. We don't have a lot that we can cut. And really, after this year, it will be exceptionally true that any cuts will directly impact student services. Something will have to cease to happen next year if we continue cutting from the budget. And it's a testament to this board and our community that we have maintained the level of service so high across all of our schools. That a bill like this really puts that in jeopardy for us for next year and beyond.
There's not a lot that we can act on either at this point, other than communicating to folks. Yeah.
So actually, somebody asked me before we got started, if when Tara and I forward what we send to our representatives and senators, what is the ask? And there's no official ask, I think. I don't know, but it would be great if they could hear from as many of us as possible. And it could be as simple as, forwarding the message and letting them know that you support it.
They're going for the third read tomorrow, which then means goes
to the House after that.
House.
Yeah, it's gonna pass the Senate.
It's gonna pass the Senate. Yeah.
Not a problem.
And then Edie, you told me it goes to Ways and Means, right? Okay.
There's
that
still
Teresa?
time. Sorry.
Yes, there's still time.
Do you want to go protest tomorrow? Every day.
Maybe not tomorrow.
There's a big No Kings thing in Huntington this weekend. We can just wrap this in.
You make pamphlets.
We'll just, signs.
Here.
Can I clarify? I just want to make sure I understood something that you wrote in the note. So it doesn't even matter, our communities need to know that them supporting us and passing a budget doesn't exclude us from the,
Excess spending threshold.
yeah, that's the nice way of putting it. The things that will happen and the monies that will be paid when we go beyond that. So, because we do have a supportive community, we have been so lucky to have these budgets passed, and they're going to say, well, we don't want to see those things cut. And it's important to relay that we can't change that.
Well, I think, so there's even more nuance than that, Katie, because we could pass a budget that exceeds the threshold. But then the growth of the tax rates would be exponential. And the mechanism is designed that the penalty we pay actually goes back to the ed fund. It's not necessarily to us.
Right.
It'd be nice if we were getting like Shohei Ohtani to pitch for us. Great. Pay the money for that, but
I don't think we can cover salary.
well, we could. We just have to defer for like
30 years.
millennia.
They got a bond. Do we rent a library?
Ugh.
And the 112%, where does that, is that like how'd they come up with that number?
Lease.
And on that.
I am not sure. I don't know if you know, Edie, it could have been a dart on the wall situation.
Okay.
I don't
There
have,
there wasn't based up any real
Straight.
knowledge or at state average or kind of,
The Thomas Amendment.
I think, you can look at the Senate Finance Committee, their page and all the documents, and they had different reports drawn up and they had information. So they did get information. They were looking at how to, impact enough districts that it keeps costs down, but not so many districts that it harms students across the entire state. This was all about cost, though. This is not about better education.
Yeah.
And so,
why support
it's
all the education for the kids in the state.
I'm filtering my comments.
Artificial suppression of,
Yeah, Tom Chittenden is on that committee. He's our senator.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to engage with our senators and reps about these things.
not all of ours.
Yeah. Okay, not all. He is, yes, he's a senator for a lot of people. Ruth Hardy is. Ruth
Ours, yeah.
Voted against it.
Can we pass this letter that you're creating beyond us to community members that would be willing to submit this to their legislators?
I mean, that's an option. So I can say Harwood has published very widely the letter that they've sent and asked everyone in their community to reach out. I think other boards have communicated, or other school districts and or boards have communicated about some of these other issues in the past. And historically, we've kind of saved our voice for when it feels really critical. And you could argue this is one of those times.
And I would say Senate or House Ways and Means is where I would put the effort at this moment. We may want to wait and see if they're going to actually take it up. Right? Like if we want to make a statement when it's appropriate to make a statement. Or this might be the kind of thing that stops them from taking it up. I don't know. So I can get back to you.
I'm gonna say that again procedurally, right? So if it passes Senate tomorrow, the House Ways and Means Committee can still not take it up?
Or
And just dies.
it just stays on the wall until they have other things. It's not like they have nothing to do.
Yeah. This would not become a priority.
I mean, so with the governor's mandate, essentially, I mean, I would think that House Ways and Means would take it up.
Unless they have another way to contain costs.
Okay.
A realistic timeline for if this were to proceed and for the House to either proceed or not proceed with this? Like, is it a month? When will this be at a decision? The House will have this as a more decision point.
Yeah, I think we have weeks, like 3 weeks before we would have to really. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt now for all of us to contact our local senator or representatives and to share this, because when I reached out to the VSBA, Sue was like, nobody's raised this concern yet. And I was like, that's okay. Okay.
And our district is being impacted. Are there other districts in Chittenden County?
So, yeah, so what's happening, so Nicole and I will totally at us, and when I say us, I mean mostly Nicole on the back for this. We were very quick to take the information and model it for us and check the joint fiscal office information. Other districts in the county are working through that process right now. I think what we're likely to see happen is everyone figure out whether or not it impacts them directly because of this debt exclusion kind of hang up that exists in the process. So I think we'll know relatively quickly. I think also just hearing about the negative feedback from some of our colleagues doing a joint public letter to raise concerns about the foundation formula. I think as I've just been sitting and thinking about this since the question was asked, I think now is probably the right time for us to communicate with our representatives as the administration and board, and that we maybe do save our voice for when it would be really impactful if we feel like we're not being heard. I always look to Edie as my legislative counsel over here.
Give a sense if we were held to that 2.6, since the only thing we could really control is staff, what we'd be looking at in terms of cuts.
There's a spreadsheet that was put together. I sent it, find it and send it to the rest.
Is it that the giant one with the very tiny type? Is it that one? Because Sue, VSBA sent something out. I can't remember if it was in the.
Yes, it's got a bunch of blueprint that's super tiny and yes.
Sean's brief, though, also does translate that to what that anticipated number of positions might be.
But I also think if we end up in that situation, or wherever we end up, actually, I should say, this is the prime time for the finance committee to actually look at these long-term projections. And I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but really begin thinking about the budget for FY28 in about a month.
We never really stopped thinking about the budget.
Yeah, bond.
In terms of long-term, I was not clear on the S220. Is this a one-year thing or is this supposed to continue on? Again, assuming nothing else happens with redistricting or anything else, how is it as written? What is it?
I believe this would continue as written, and it would be replaced only with Act 73's foundation formula and redistricting work. But is that okay? So, it's a longstanding mechanism in Vermont education finance. So I think until we move to a foundation formula, this is likely to continue.
So it is worthwhile to make long-term planning decisions based on this until the long-term plan changes.
It's a very exciting time to be on a school board, isn't it?
Time.
Just wish the state was concerned about quality education for all our students and children as it is about saving money. I feel like whatever outcome is gonna happen, it's gonna be that outcome for the state students.
Triple. This rate, so
I hear what you're saying, Heather. I also want to provide some glimmer of hope. I think as a board, you all have shown an awful lot of creativity over time and ability to make hard choices to protect kids from political headwinds. And I think that there is the reason that I would recommend the finance committee start the FY28 budget so early if something like this passes is so that we have enough time to come up with some of those creative ideas and rally around that or do community engagement around it to see what has to happen to protect protect the core of the program. I'm always gonna look for that silver lining.
We ready to move into other business? Or do you feel like we've tackled it all?
Is it threes?
Or committees. Finance is met, Lisa. Great.
Yes, we met.
You still the chair?
I'm still the chair.
Congratulations.
Thanks. God, what did we talk about?
We like to do.
Talk about this a little.
Like there was something else we talked about. Sorry.
Buses?
No, we did not talk about buses.
Just seems like an easy one.
Sorry.
Well, we did talk about
We just pull up Pat's excellent note.
transportation data.
Yes.
Yeah, we did talk about
Should be
transportation
back.
data that we'll add that to another agenda, which I think will be covered also.
Get there.
Someone.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to start looking at facilities and.
But we talked about the audit piece and doing.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. We agreed that we wanted to do a comprehensive audit of the facilities and their usage. And what else was it? That includes?
So it includes also a deeper dive into space utilization and community engagement around
Correct, yeah.
the use of public school spaces.
Impressive. Community engagement hasn't met yet, or you met.
March 9th. Our minutes are not on the website, so I could just tell you from the agenda what, we discussed.
Is the Up for Learning.
So we had Lindsay Hallman from Up for Learning talk to us about, student leadership in the district. Help me out here, John.
So there's the
Audit.
That's right. So from the school administration side, there's been a desire at the high school and then the middle schools to do a student voice and leadership audit. Up for Learning is involved with students in governance positions as well across the state. And so Lindsay just came to talk about the opportunity to include the various student reps and the way the board engages with student voice and student leadership as an option as part of the audit, which we elected to do. So.
Yes. And do you remember anything else, Sandra?
Just the ongoing discussions we're having around how to engage the community more and ownership linkage and yeah, you
And a
know,
reminder to check the calendar, our community calendar, for events going on.
and ideally to add to it. Yeah.
HR committee met this morning. He's still the chair.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, committee member.
Alternate there. Can I get an invite to the meetings?
Couldn't make it.
That's okay. We met this morning. We need to coordinate with community engagement, but John's going to take the lead on that. And we had a long executive session.
I wish I'd been there.
Let's just connect at the end.
How do we fix that for next time? Like, we did the committees, we did all the assignments, then we had meetings and the DL doesn't get updated? Is that
Is the what, sorry?
like the distribution list for the meeting or?
Nope, so they should have all been updated. So I'm sorry, Helen, I'm not sure why you're not on that list, but make sure that you are.
Is it possible the meeting invites went out before the committees were updated?
They should have still been.
Okay.
They were all updated right after.
If it's the first time getting it, it's an unknown sender, maybe.
Yeah, but you've gotten them for community engagement before,
I
right?
get all the community engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not on the list. You didn't get it.
I didn't get it. I would have been there.
Are you still gonna do the regional advisory board?
Yes,
There's a meeting coming up too.
yeah, it got scheduled.
Got scheduled,
Yes,
like May? Chris?
I have no idea.
I will tell you.
Voice in this ear didn't tell me when it got scheduled.
Tell you. Got scheduled for the 28th of April, so there's plenty of time.
I will provide 2 more updates that there was a meeting scheduled. Then I'll give you the update on the meeting.
The VSBA met on March 11th. I took horrible notes. I just, yeah, it was, I don't know. I can't remember. Similar to Lisa. And Pat doesn't take those notes, so I can't tell you what we talked about because my notes are horrible and I apologize. But they sent out the second legislative report. This week's newsletter includes things about 220, which we just talked about, as does the legislative report that the VSBA just sent out. We'll meet again the second Wednesday of April. And I'll take better notes. Yes, Kevin?
At what point during our calendar do we decide to continue our membership in the VSBA?
Would you like to have that conversation at our next meeting?
I would like to make that a conscious decision as a board. I think that's a board decision. If we're a member of the VSBA, and we should know that that's our choice.
Is it because notes?
When do we renew the membership? I don't even know.
Like a July 1 thing, you know? And this is me coming from a world where everybody's memberships are up June 30th and you have to renew like July 1, because that's when budgets restart.
It's true, we haven't had that conversation. Sorry, you have your hand up on top.
I just wanted to add to the VSBA because I wrote this down last time and I don't remember if I mentioned it. They have 2 trainings coming up that I think could be beneficial to us. Elevating student voice is 4/14, 12-1, and knowledge and compliance of Vermont's open meeting law is 5/14. And so it seems like they've made a consistent schedule here on the 14th of each month.
Thanks for highlighting those.
Remind people. I was just gonna remind people that if you can't attend, still
right.
sign up, because then they email you and you can watch it whenever you have the time to do it.
And you also have to now register with the VSBA for like a password in order to access these things.
Looks like dues were paid for the 26 fiscal year 26 membership in May of 25. So probably just before the new fiscal year starts.
April, it's coming up. Thanks.
Do we have a date for the retreat in August?
No.
As if we remember.
Ballpark?
No.
No, okay.
Oh.
Yes. My August gets super busy. We might have to bump it up to July.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Because we don't actually
Sometime
meet in
for December 20.
Can ballpark it for you.
Like only halfway done. Yeah.
Probably the 12th or the 19th, those 2 days. Probably.
I mean, my mom is trying to plan going to Storyland with my kids, so if she asks me anymore, I'm just gonna send her tickets.
I'll take them for 2 weeks.
Huh?
I'll take them for the whole
For the whole month.
So that concludes tonight's portion of our open meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I'll move. Second.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Turned at 8 o'clock.
I apologize. I'm gonna run through.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.